Hello friends, neighbors, Johnny your neighbor here. Welcome to the Nook. Welcome to Sunday, where I do like to shoot some samples, and a number of you have been somehow getting samples to me, and I really appreciate that. Here I've got a couple of samples that came to me from Whiskey and Theo from Pennsylvania. I know he wanted to really give me a chance to taste distilleries that I just wouldn't see up here, and specifically from Pennsylvania. So both of these are Pennsylvania. I've got McLaughlin Distillery, which I think is 100% corn. And then I've got Liberty Pole, which is called their Holiday Embers. It's got some peated barley in both bourbons, but obviously, at least on the surface, are going to be pretty unique. So I thought I'd shoot these just in anticipation of July 4th coming up. I thought I got to get some bourbon on the channel. So if you've got any Pennsylvania whiskey, or you're just curious about Pennsylvania whiskey, why don't you pour a little stronger bourbon? I think we're at 50 and 60%, and come on back. 3, 4. Thanks for coming back. As I said, Whiskey and Theo, you're such a gentleman for getting me these whiskeys because they are absolutely not in my market, and it's always fun to be able to taste beyond my borders and specifically a number of samples from a region. Both of these are Pennsylvania. McLaughlin is from a small town that I've never been to, Swickley, and I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. But it was fun to go on the website and see, I think it's Kim McLaughlin, the fellow owner, hear a bit of his story. And it sounds like the kind of whiskey shack I would love to visit. Now, what caught my attention here, really dark colors, but also that this one is 100% corn. So I haven't had a lot of nothing but corn bourbons. I've had a couple of Canadian whiskeys that were actually 100% corn. But we'll see how this one knows and tastes. I think it's about 51, 52%. It's in the 3799 series, if I read the website right. But let's get into this single barrel bourbon. You know, classic, buttery, spicy, cinnamon, kind of hot. Yeah, for me, a little more heat, a little more like hot cinnamon red heart and cracked caramel candy. It's kind of sweet on the nose and kind of hot. I don't know how old it is. Let's give it a taste. Cheers. That is tasty at 51, 52%. It's got some really nice oak, some bright oak, like it's got fresh, some char on there, some sweet, almost like almond oak is not the right, but I try to describe it when I say it tastes oaky. If you're a whiskey person, you know what I mean. But if you're not, you're just here going like, well, what does bourbon oaky mean? It's like, this one's got some pretty fresh presence of oak. That sense of, I've said this before, chewing on a popsicle stick in your mouth. It's kind of drying, slightly tannic, a little spicy. It's got quite a bit of oak presence. I don't know if they use quarter casks or smaller casks, but I'm really speaking here is the nose was sweet and candy and caramel, and the palate is very oaky. A little bit of char, not a lot, but lots of, even oak on the edge of slight pine. Gonna take another sip, but it's really tasty. I am gonna go back to that. There is a little bit of that pine, almost rye spice. It's surprising to me that this is 100% corn. I expected more cooked brown sugar, more baked, soft, round butter. I often get that with very high corn. The way this is drawing my palate, the spice that I'm getting, the oak, slight almost pine. I would have sworn there was good rye in here. 100% corn. Lots of flavor. Thanks for sharing this one. Second sample that came to me from Whiskey and Theo is this Liberty Pole. Now, this is also a single barrel. They do offer a peated bourbon on their site, so it's a regular part of what they put together, but this one is a single barrel. And I've already forgotten the ratios, and I didn't write it down, but I believe it was somewhere around 59% Bloody Butcher corn, which is a heritage corn, and then 41%. They don't say how much of that 41 is heavily peated and how much is regular, but it's malted barley. The peated barley comes from Scotland. So I wanted to bring it up second for two reasons. It's 60.5%, so it should be a little hotter. And also with that peat, I often find peat can really play in my palate, and it's tough to get rid of, often in a good way if I'm trying to do a bunch of samples. So this is from Liberty Pole. It's a family distillery, and it is a 4-year single barrel peated bourbon. And coming in contrast to a full corn bourbon, I'm definitely getting some, what is that? Extra smoke, almost a little mossy. There's like clearly something different. Kind of a sweet sour. That's what I'll go. There's a little bit of sour, not in an off way, but there's a little bit of sour citrus, something earthy. The regular sweetness, there's a bit of vanilla in there. Oh, in deep, I got a bit of a cherry, but a like a spiced cherry. I don't know how to explain that better, but I got some of that sweet dark fruit cherry note. But there's just a uniqueness that I just must attribute to that peated barley. It's got me a little puzzled on the nose, but it's interesting, and certainly in my journey that draws me in. Let's give it a taste. Cheers. First sip, just like the nose, the peat is playing center stage. We've got an ember, fire, beechwood. It's almost salty. And then I get some more of the brown sugars, some more bourbon notes of that corn, maybe the husky corn. But first thoughts, definitely for me, the peat is saying hello right away. Got to give it another sip. Cheers. I'm enjoying the peat influence, and I don't want to overstate it, but coming from 100% corn, it is so dramatic. It is spicy on the palate. It's earthy and smoldery, and I'm still going to say slightly salty. So maybe salted caramel, but then there's an earth, fire, smolder, ash. It's not medicinal, but it's just on that edge, which is such a unique flavor for a bourbon. It tastes like a spicy, sweet, peated single malt in some ways. And then I get back into oh no, but there's more. There's got to be nice fresh oak in here. It's drying in my palate differently than a single malt would. And it's certainly a lot spicier overall than a single malt would, but the peat really is unique. This one's called Holiday Embers, and I would say certainly at 60%, this would be a perfect Christmas whiskey. Like this is a fire in a glass with lots of sweetness, but then lots of broody salt and Christmas cake and that kind of thing. Very, very interesting. Both of these samples are excellent. I don't know if you're in the Pennsylvania area or how far either of these ship. McLaughlin really gave the impression on his video that he is very small, so I imagine you've got to be pretty local to be able to get McLaughlin, but Liberty Pole looked a little bit bigger. I imagine it goes to a few states around, so if this piqued your interest, I hope that did, because that's the point, to share a little bit of insight into distilleries that maybe don't get some attention. And as we think of 4th of July, I hope you have a great celebration when you get to it and have a good bourbon in your glass. Take care.